dangers out there, you know, although you don't think about them, they must be in the back of your mind somewhere in your subconsciousness. It's not fear, you know, but it's just adrenaline, because you expect yourself to do well, even though you know that something silly could happen, you know.
If I was going to Tallinn, I was going to pay my respects to the great man himself.
I think it's just hard work and effort. I think you get back out of it what you put into it.
Nick is a one-man band. He's the real deal, and he can put his hand to do anything. One minute he's planning a trip around South America, the next minute he's planning a giant rally for all the adventure touring enthusiasts in the middle of Wales somewhere. He's developed his own adventure centre.
He was a one-off, an absolute one-off. I detected that from the word go, and that's without hindsight. I knew, and a couple of us knew, that we were dealing with a particular individual here who was very, very interesting indeed.
What it is that singularly drives him, I'm not sure.
These kind of miles every single day, day in, day out, to me is absolutely amazing that a human being can do it.
To me personally, Nick is motorcycling's Indiana Jones.
We're synonymous with that trip around the world.
It's indefinable. I've tried to analyse it many times.
People often think about Nick or describe him as being crazy. He's not crazy in the slightest. He's just full of energy.
Because his challenge was getting around the world as fast as possible, not learning how to film.
It's almost like somebody to swat off your shoulder. He doesn't give up very easily.
I don't think any manufacturer with a real passion for motorcycling couldn't help but get engaged with someone like Nick, who shares that passion with Yamaha. And it's that quality that we just are ready for whatever Nick wants to suggest next. It's been a fantastic adventure and a journey that looks likely to continue for many years to come.
When are you coming home?
It doesn't matter whether it's a contradiction or not. Just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done. And the thing I like about Nick is that he's proved it again and again and again.
I like crazy climbers who do crazy places. It's like the very few of them, and you have to listen to people like that. You have to watch them because they give you a view of the world which a normal person can't possibly give you.
This is a story about a life that could not have been lived without the characters and protagonists who you bump along with. For me, I chose the Dunlop family as a starting point, whereby I might understand myself better. Robert, who I knew briefly, was talented and ran a family and was really quite a humble man. Equally, I had kids, and like the Dunlops, we were all so close. I was always saying goodbye to them, and as I set off on another journey, it was part of our particular family's narrative that Dad would go away, to work maybe, definitely to ride his bike, but they didn't know where or what I really did. So to ask a question which might have relevance to me, how do people like Robert Dunlop come to terms with their own style of adventuring? How nervous do you get on race day?
I get quite nervous, actually, yeah. I think it's probably just adrenaline, you know, that's all. But I do. Some lads, my young lads doesn't seem to bother them, but me, I do get nervous, yeah. I'm nervous now, I mean.
But does it get easier, I mean, as you get older or, you know, further into your career?
That's one of the things I don't like about racing, you know, because especially at an international, for example, the Northwest, the Isle of Man TT, there's obvious dangers out there, you know, although you don't think about them, they must be in the back of your mind somewhere in your subconsciousness.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. To all the riders, we hope you have a successful day.
It's not fear, you know, but it's just adrenaline, because you expect yourself to do well, even though you know that something silly could happen, you know.
Something silly could happen on any bike ride. It didn't have to be the scaries. Gravel, trucks, mud, more trucks, more mud, always the vast distances alone. Sure, you needed a different kind of mental furniture in your mind, different to the way a racer might have to judge his ride. But a race against the clock is still a race against the clock. But both kinds of journey are based on the road of dreams. And they're off. So this film will try and explore the psychodrama of riding a motorcycle, and in that context, we all have our road of dreams, and this film shows off mine. John McGuinness's eyes. They tell a story of a man on the edge. My own background centred around competitive sport, and most of my adventure exploits were always on the quick side. Joey Dunlop once said, "I just ride a bike, but quick like." For me, I just ride a bike, but far away like, and for a long time.
Whenever I rode the Norton, which was capable of 190 mile an hour down Anti-Portrush, I could focus on somebody and pick somebody out of the crowd, even at that speed.
Funny what Robert said, but I know what he meant. And in 1996, during my not quite so fast, fastest man ride, something caught my eye too.
Oh, blimey. This naughty little thing's got his head stuck in a Coke can. Oh, poor little thing. I think this requires a rescue mission.
People think riding 1,000 miles a day is crazy, that you're a bit mad to even try, especially day after day. Yet that great road racer Cameron Donald thought otherwise. His views and that of Martin Finnegan's reflect mine strongly.
A good bike racer has to be competitive, has to be determined. A lot of people in the crowd will probably say you have to be nuts or mad to ride a circuit like the street circuits because of the danger involved and the risks and whatnot. But I think when you speak to the riders, they're the calmest bunch of sensible guys around. They've just all started off riding slow and got faster over a period of time, so going that quick doesn't seem that crazy to them. And
it's funny, you know, we ask this question lots of times, but even at places like the TT, you could be riding along and you'd sit and thinking, God, I wonder what we're having for dinner tonight or where we're going. Then you have to tell yourself, oh, back to the job, you know. But it's funny what you think about, but you have to try and keep your mind on the job.
As far as from my point of view, the road circuits are just so much more of a challenge, so much more you against the circuit compared to a closed circuit competition. It's much more of a challenge as a rider to get a street circuit perfect because of the imperfections on the track, because of the bumps and the fences and whatnot. It's the ultimate challenge to try to beat the circuit, so to speak.
Beat the circuit? Is that what he said? It was the isolated mountains of the high Andes that I needed to beat. Fall off here and you'll not be discovered for days. And for hours on end, you think about the things you love, your own past life, what it is that drives you on.
I think it's hard work. I think it's just hard work and effort. I think you get back out of it what you put into it. I don't know what it is, you know. It's just I find adjusting to the speed easy, you know, and put a lot of effort into it and a lot of practice into it. I think this is what brings it on.
But as in all dangerous situations, there's a downside, even in the very best of hands, as Cameron Donald explained to me at the Skerries the year before Dunlop died.
It's something that doesn't come into your mind while you're racing. And it might creep into your mind occasionally in between the races. But if you want to continue going fast, I think you've got to put them out of your mind. It's not a case of gritting your teeth and holding your breath. It's a case of calculated risks. That's the way I look at it. Extremely calculated risks. That's from my point of view anyway. So you definitely don't go into a blind corner with your teeth grit, hoping you're going to pop out the other side. I've thought it over in my mind at how fast I can take that corner with experience in other corners, and then from there I ride the track. So it is calculated.
You know, you're doing what you love doing, so you don't look at the bad end of it.
I filmed Martin a week before he crashed, and if someone as skilled as him crossed that line, what chance had I? Because when I stepped astride my bike, I had to leave my own family behind too.
Bye, Dad! Bye! Good luck! Bye, Dad! Bye! Goodbye!
Look!
'I'm about 3 hours behind on my schedule of 1,000 miles a day. It's really unfortunate, but the weather was so bad over the Carpathian Mountains, just torrential rain all night, and I was averaging speeds of 25 to 30 miles an hour all night. You're just following truck after truck.
...2005, and I needed a big ride. To be honest, and this has been a recurring theme in my life, but I badly needed the money. Around the world, 1,000 miles every day as an average, including the paperwork and the loan. It was a tough call. So what did the editors think about it?
And immensely driven, and I guess a little bit crazy probably helps.
20,000 miles, 20 days, Nick Saunders, you're mad.
Yeah, well, I know that's a popular impression of the kind of stuff I do, but I've been doing it for such a long time, for 25 years. And, from bicycling around the world a couple of times, and I've motorbiked around the world 6 times now.
He was an absolute one-off. I detected that from the word go. And that's without hindsight. I knew, and a couple of us knew, that we were dealing with a particular individual here who was very, very interesting indeed, and had got massive potential to ride a bicycle extremely fast and skillfully.
Good grief, what has this bloke done? He's ridden for how long? He's ridden for how many days non-stop?
That you have to kind of push yourself to the outer limits, and I think you've got to be a really, really strong character who's really sure about themselves to do that.
You're being sent off from a small village in Wales, and for you, presumably, well, the world is a small place as well.
It's not just me going around the world, it's everybody, every average ordinary person like the rest of us who can go and do their own thing and do their own challenge, and it's just as important to them as this is to me.
You know, you've got to be really, really physically fit, I think, and also you need to be mentally fit as well, because actually, more than anything else, you need to be able to stay focused and determined. And well, so it's a bit questionable whether Nick's mentally fit, but the one thing he does have is there's no question that he has got an iron will, a determination like, it's world champion class, his determination and will, no matter what, to overcome. And that's what you need, and that's what he's got.
You can't train greatness up, because you've either got it or you haven't at the end of the day.
But I think if you look at the research, often it's set that sort of drive is set in childhood.
You can develop talents so you become nearly great, that's fine, but true greatness is to do with exploring oneself and taking it to that next degree.
So people make a decision quite early on that what they're going to do, and it's often messages that they've either received, often very strongly from their parents, or that they've actually decided themselves. So, they will have taken on and heard the message over and over again. You should be a success, you should be rich, etc., etc.
For cyclists to be successful, he's got to have a certain mean streak in him. He's got to be self-assured, and he's basically got to want to do these things. He may be very strong, he may be physically gifted, but that doesn't guarantee a good cyclist under any circumstances.
Chris, Tanya, how's it? How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Fine, and you?
Great.
Just keep going for it, then.
Thank you, will do.
You've got to be very special. You've got to attend to small things. You've got to attend to matters that are important to you as an individual.
The other thing that we have found, and I did a book many years ago called The Stress Survivors, where we interviewed very successful people that were known in the media and show business and business, to actually find out what had driven them to success, because they were extremely successful. And one of the things that we found, which other psychologists have also found, is that often they had a loss in their childhood. So either through divorce or death, or they came from quite dysfunctional families where the attachment wasn't there with either parent.
Professor Lynn was my mentor. She looked back at my life and helped me work out why I did what I did. My 1960s family life had its poverties, but it would be unfair to say it was always unhappy. It's just that there weren't many occasions when it was. My Irish mum from the provinces became a chronic alcoholic, suffering 3 major nervous breakdowns until once again she was sectioned for her 6th bout of electric shock treatment. She would be away for months. My mother died young, as did my brother, addicted as he was, but in another way, so I clung to my dad, the last man standing, and me, his son. When I went away, I came back for him, to the town of Glossop and nearby Gamesley.
But a great rider, a great focused person, it's very difficult to define. Whether it's a cyclist or a businessman like Branson, they have a vision, they pursue that vision. Nick, certainly in his life, has pursued various visions prodigiously in his own particular way. The same lad I see now, with a few years added. He definitely had a way of doing things, and he was very persistent. It's almost like a mosquito attacking you. It's almost like somebody who you need to swat off your shoulder. He doesn't give up very easily, and he'll ask you questions till he gets the answers he wants and the options he wants. And persistence is quite remarkable. As a young lad, the best by whatever means possible.
It's almost as if that drove them to fill that gap, the success and being recognised and being able to get attention from people and being seen, really. And I think in Nick, knowing what his childhood was like, I think for him very much that was something that drove him.
He got tremendous talent, he got tremendous verve, he wanted to do well, and he was prepared to do what it took to do well at any price. And of course that did go on. He moved to France, to a town in the Loire called Pithiviers.
And this was one of the first places I moved to when I came to France.
Lived in a farmhouse with a coal tap.
I moved to Pithiviers afterwards, but this is a little place called Folleville.
He once wrote to me telling me of his experiences there, and they made pretty depressing reading, but he was very perky about the whole thing.
And when I was 18, I came to live here in the country and I had a little place behind me. Wow, I didn't realise that the roof had come off. Obviously be completely demolished. This is the place, this was my bedroom here, and this was a kind of living room, and I've painted my Union Jack, and it's still here, and here as well. And this was the kitchen, and my garden was back there, and Lucy and Raymond lived over there. Yeah, it was a bit sad really, but it was a nice memory when I was 18. To even start to understand why I spent half my professional life riding vast distances, you have to go back in time. In 2013, I took my eldest son, Will, on an XT660, armed only with a press pass, giving me permission to ride alongside the greatest bike race in the world, and a camera to record my thoughts. We're near the top of Mount Ventoux, and the altitude's quite high. The helicopters are here, the riders are just about to arrive. I've got this lovely connection between being a motorcyclist and, of course, being an ex-cyclist. Years ago, I cycled around the world and I became a record-breaking cyclist.
that moved me into being a record-breaking motorbiker. I think the sufferance of being a cyclist, because it is really tough for those boys, taught me how to suffer on a motorbike, how to do 1,000 miles a day, how to ride for 24 hours a day for 2 or 3 days basically without sleep. I learned that way of being. It's been very autobiographical, and I think really having that kind of that blooding, if you like, with such a hard cycling background made it easy for me to race around the world on a motorbike. I think also having the spatial awareness of being on a push bike, riding down the hills at 50 miles an hour, gave me the capability to ride, scanning the road, being able to see exactly where I was, almost having 3D vision basically when I was riding around the world, so that I never had an accident, even though I've ridden around the world 7 times. That's what I mean by the severe training, if you like, I gave myself through many years of being a bike racer, through many years of bicycling around the world. Sure, it's not motorcycling, but it's the preparation for being a motorcyclist. I'm much more a motorcyclist than I am a bicyclist, that's for sure. It all started from this. This is my background. This is me as I was as a youth. This was me as a professional cyclist, if you like. I earned my living from it. And this is me that took me on to another level.
Where there is life, there is wishful thinking, and I've used a huge spoonful here. Christopher Froome is the bicyclist equivalent of John McGuinness and Robert Dunlop rolled into one. And years of being a cyclist made me just want to stand close to him, just to see what it was that made him tick. What did George Bernard Shaw say about life? Just do what must be done, as he says. This may not be happiness, but it is greatness. I've tried to follow that maxim all my life. And here, almost like in some open road coliseum, are the sporting warriors of now. All peak caps and machines that spit out fire. All making ready between the hedges and along the flat straights for their next titanic battle.
The drive was so strong in him, it was above everything else. He didn't care about money, he never had any money. As long as he raised money for his next great adventure, that was all that was important to him. And in some ways, he didn't really care about relationships, this drive to travel. And my analysis with him, rightly or wrongly, was that, as a young child, to escape from his childhood, which was pretty unhappy, one of the times he used to talk about where he was actually happy was when he used to walk the hills and travel with his dad. And I think that was for him his escape. And I think he linked that with happiness and feeling carefree and escaping. And I think that drive has never left him.
Lynn was right. As often from the age of 4, Dad and I would ramble around the Peak District, tramping across Kinder Scout to Kinder River, the Downfall, Madwoman Stones. It was really an excuse to be away from home, Dad away from his wife and me from my mum. "We have to go home now, son," he would say sadly, and the happiness of the day would start to fade. I made provision in my head, even then, to journey far away.
He was a cyclist. I used to go out with a film crew to film him preparing for his round-the-world bicycle ride, which was a very big deal in those days.
The actual snow doesn't really help me for going around the world, apart from the fact it's fairly hard.
And we were very lucky at the BBC to have somebody like that that actually came into the programme and excited kids. You know, the fact that you could just get on a bicycle and bicycle around the world was amazing.
When I used to race and make a living from cycling, I used to enjoy going down steep hills about 60 miles an hour. But now I wouldn't dream of doing that because it's a little bit difficult. Because if I fell off going down a really steep hill, say in Nepal or something, where a steep hill can last all day long, then if I fell off, I could be in serious trouble. I don't want to break a leg on the journey.
So we did some little films in this country, first of all, where he was practicing 170 miles a day and all that sort of thing.
Another thing Nick did on each training day was to make a record of his route and of anything unusual that happened.
Well, this is what I'm going to use to record my daily progress. This acts as a diary.
When he went off on the big trip, he used to do phone-ins to the show that were live, and I was so scared always that lines would go down or some kind of communication wouldn't work because we were working with a live programme.
And we arranged for a film crew to meet him at the famous Allenby Bridge over the River Jordan.
And the brilliant thing about Nick was that I could totally rely on him. No matter where he was and what he was doing, he got to a phone or he got to a point where the film crew were going to meet him. And he did what we needed him to do and got it back to the programme. So I became a big fan of his very early on.
Nick's training schedule was simple. Miles, miles and more miles.
The great thing about Nick, as a person to work with, as a producer and director, was that his enthusiasm is beyond bounds and he comes up with massively fantastic ideas. And then it was up to me to try and make those ideas work for television and particularly for children's television.
Hello, I hope you're having a smashing holiday.
He was great. He always listened to everything I asked of him and he always came up with the goods. The fact that we were filming someone on a real journey, going round the world, it was something that hadn't been done before as far as any of us were concerned. It was a great innovation in terms of the fact that children would be able to see this actually happening for real and would be able to follow the journey.
And then he was off.
Good luck, Nick. He was just one of those people that you say something and he'd say, yes, I can do it. And he made it work. I totally trusted him. If we came up with an idea, I knew that he would make it work and that I wouldn't be let down. And that I found very refreshing.
You can see probably one of the most beautiful panoramic views in the world with the Golden Dome, the Dome of the Rock right in the centre there.
But there was no time to walk because Nick had a plane to catch.
Very nearly about to say goodbye to Australia and off to a new country. And as you can see, for a new country, New Jersey. No, New Zealand.
Once I got to know Nick and realised that he was a very interesting person, quite different to anyone else that I had worked with before, we actually started to come up with ideas, because that's the basis of all television, is the ideas. And he came to me one day and he said, I'm going to learn to fly a hot air balloon. And then we decided that it might be an idea to think about filming that and getting famous people to go with him and make some films again for the Saturday morning shows. We thought this would be a really good way of getting to know the real person behind the celebrity. And so we enlisted various celebrities who were willing to go hot air ballooning with somebody that they'd never heard of before, and we certainly didn't mention that he was fairly new to it.
Hey, hey!
The very best one of all, I was so pleased over this, was that one afternoon I was having my hair cut at a Manchester hair salon, and who should come and sit in the chair next to me but Victoria Wood. And I went over to her and I told her all about hot air and about Nick, and would she be interested in coming for a flight. And amazingly she said yes. So we set up filming with Victoria Wood over the Lake District, which was where she was living.
Great gun of the bay, isn't it?
It's lovely.
There's a funny thing about balloons, it's actually quite controllable. You can actually come down by a few inches, you know, if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Do you know what you're doing?
Only sometimes.
It's just an imposter.
Do you mind people coming up to you and say, you're Victoria Wood? And sometimes they might even say, go on, tell us a joke.
Oh yeah, they always do that. No, I don't mind. I mean, that's part of the job. If you want people to buy tickets to come and see you, then you can't suddenly switch up and say, well, now I don't want to be available.
And if somebody tells you a joke,
I laugh.
you do. What about some of your characters? I mean, Kitty the Agony Aunt, she was marvellous. I mean, where does she come from?
I don't know. I mean, there are these people around. I mean, it's basically you sit down and you sweat over a piece of paper. You know, you're not lucky enough you won't bump into Kitty.
And then you had to have a follow-on crew. So the producer, director, PA and people were in cars, and you had to follow the balloon. Well, obviously the balloon goes the way the wind goes, which isn't the way roads go necessarily.
Do you have any idea where we are?
No, we're hopelessly lost now.
Look, we've got some cows here, so when they're going bonkers...
I can't see the cows on the map, unfortunately.
A bit higher, hang on. Zip up to 500 feet.
Okie doke.
See what it looks like there.
So we were having to chase the basket because it was going at quite fast. All I had to do was to trust that Nick was asking the questions that I'd primed him with, and that the responses were good, and everything worked out okay.
Oh, we're not going the way I thought we were. We've gone up the crease now, I'm sorry. We should head towards the embassy.
Do we have a cup of tea?
Oh, yes, have you got one?
Right, here we go. Will you hold the flask?
Yes.
Right, there we go, that's that.
Yeah.
Now, and you can hold that, can you hold that as well?
Yes.
Right.
This cup is filthy, does it matter?
It's all right.
Yes.
I'll
no,
have
not your jacket.
No, I'll have that one.
All right,
you
then.
You have this one.
All right, thank you.
There you are, that's fairly...
yes, it's fairly clean.
tidy. And can you... Right, who's going to hold this?
You got the tea bags?
Yes, hang on, I'll put a spoon first.
Good.
And put that there.
Yes.
And tea bags. No.
Lovely.
You don't take sugar, do you?
I don't.
Or milk?
Poison. No, they're both poison to the system.
Well, it's fairly fortunate because I haven't got any.
Oh, steady. Could lose a wrist. There you go.
Ooh.
Shall we each prod our own? Is that
Yes.
probably the best thing?
May I steer it for you, Victoria?
Could you?
Thank you. What should we do with the tea bag? Do you like it weak or strong?
Weak.
Right, well, you won't want that. I mean, are you allowed to throw tea bags out of a balloon?
No, it's environmentally unsound.
Well, I don't know.
Drop
Isn't
it
it? Oh, in there?
Drop it on the floor.
Oh, right, there, right. Tea bag there. Hang on, you want a spoon? You don't lean on the edge.
Oh, I thought if I leant on the edge, I could put the cap back on the thermos.
Cups are less biodegradable
Graham, you got a
than tea
hand
bags.
free? I feel like Annika Rice here,
Right,
bossing
no.
people about. Thank you.
Confusing the issue.
No.
Now,
where's the biscuit?
Right, you hold this.
Yes.
Right. Now, you don't want chocolate. Go on, have
No.
Go on, let me take it.
No.
How about a brandy snap?
No.
Oh.
No. Those
You're a
ones in the
difficult
nuts
person
in.
to please. How about
I
one of
know.
those?
But when I am pleased, I'm really pleased.
All right, well, try that one out.
Yeah, okay. Yours is the dark one. There you go.
Okay. I'll just put
Cheers,
some back.
everybody.
Until it landed, when we could retrieve him and the basket and make sure that everything had worked okay.
We're going to land close to that gate there.
Can you see? Is it locked? No, it's open. No. The key's there. Yeah, it's fine. We're all right.
Right, we're going to land down now. Here we go.
Oh, and here's my car.
My life quest was beginning to form, and in equal measure so was my need to escape. And that, after so many years of parental misunderstanding, was forced to become so self-centred that I might learn how to exist. But it wasn't just that, more a quest to examine what it is to be different. To be the best in the world at something, And it's a subject I've discussed with many friends, such as Eric Jones.
I do it for the adventure, for the incredible feeling of doing these things, that you're right on the edge, that if you do make a mistake that you might get injured or killed. But the feeling when you do it successful, is just like nothing else. And I've been doing it for so long now, and I get such a kick out of it, and I just hope to continue it as long as I can.
Another friend, and also sadly departed, was world biker Robbie Marshall, ruminating as ever on the questions why, himself in search of the unanswerable answers.
When he was asked why he climbed Everest, he said because it was there. The world is there. It's a very, very big place. And what is so exciting about travelling around the world is that if you keep on doing it, every time you do it, it will be so different. Because you'll meet different people, you'll be in different places, you'll discover new languages, you'll discover a complete new world. Don't anybody say that the world is small. The world is vast, and it's out there for the taking for anybody who wants to go and do it.
When he decided he was going to go and explore the world and travel the world on this Enfield bike, and he very kindly asked me where I'd like to meet him in the world. And so I had this little tick list of countries that I wanted to visit and that I thought would be magical and I wanted to explore and see. So I chose Egypt. I remember working my way through this mass of men to get to Nick, and that moment was just really exciting and wonderful. Cairo and Egypt wasn't what I expected it to be. Cairo was really hard work because it was hot, full of traffic, and it beeps the whole time. It beeped. All through the night, we stayed in this flea pit of a hotel that Nick always stayed in because I think it suited him. It was nice and cheap. There was a bed there. It had somewhere to wash. I'd never been bitten by bed bugs or fleas or anything like that before. It was the worst hotel I have ever stayed. He insisted that we eat the street food, so we had to eat from the places that prepared food just on the side of the roads. And at first that seemed perfectly tolerable and okay. I like a meal in a restaurant, but it was all right for a while until I got ill.
Whilst she was ill, I wandered the streets of Alexandria, where my favourite writer, Lawrence Durrell, wrote his Alexandrian Quartet. He said, "There are only 3 things to be done with a woman. You can love her, suffer for her, or turn her into literature." Cairo for me was that woman.
It was a little bit like being trapped in this horror city with all these men and all this noise. And I knew the bike was broken, and Nick was quite reassuring at the beginning. He was sure that he'd found somebody that could just put it together and mend it, in a couple of days. There wasn't a point where it was working when I was in Cairo. And we made this journey, a little pilgrimage to the workshop daily to meet the man that was mending the bike. I think it was Nick's sheer frustration that an Enfield should be pretty easy to work on with somebody that's got experience of mending bikes, but this bike wasn't getting mended and we didn't understand why, and we didn't have the language to question him properly, and we didn't understand his responses. But each day that we visited, the energy level would just rise and I could feel this tension, and in the end it was quite ferocious. I don't even know if I was there at the end, if the bike did get mended, if I ever rode on it. I think I may have just left Nick in Cairo with the bike in the workshop still. Yeah.
Millie went home and I continued the journey. She decided no longer to step out with the slowest man around the world on a bike that broke down about every 3 days. And by Calcutta, she'd made friends with someone else. She leaving was like a train going through my head.
38,000 miles in 7 months on my 500cc Bullet, and I came to visit the Enfield factory here in Madras.
The Royal Enfield has a very different positioning in India and in the overseas markets. In India, Royal Enfield is the most powerful motorcycle, and Indian market is a very large market for motorcycles, but largely for commuter motorcycles. And Royal Enfield is seen as the most powerful and the only motorcycle good for getting out into the open roads and riding long distances. And that's really the positioning in India. Whereas in the overseas markets, such as England and Europe and America, the Royal Enfield is more of a classic bike. It's a modern classic motorcycle which has got a lot of heritage, and it's something that people like to use for that purpose. Yeah.
Around the World Journey number 3, 38,000 miles on a 500cc motorcycle, which I had become, with the approach of yet another new journey, once more aware of loneliness and time. These were 2 companions without whom no journey can yield us anything, and for me, it was simply preparation for World Journey number 4, and then 5, and then 6, and so it goes on.
He linked his specific next adventure with a new relationship. And we used to go through all his significant ex-girlfriends, and each one was at a particular adventure time, whether it was ballooning or whether it was cycling around the world on a Triumph motorbike. And I think with me was the Black Sea adventure, the longest canal boat trip.
We got involved in the first instance because Nick Sanders came and asked us if we would provide 2 boats to publicise the waterways in this country. Well, to publicise it and to supply 2 boats, along with Gardner and 1 or 2 other people that eventually came into it, you've got to do something again extraordinary.
During the early 1990s, we had several inquiries and encouragement from narrowboat owners for Gardner to re-enter into this important marketplace with our smallest engine, the 2LW. That coincided absolutely wonderfully with an opportunity which we heard about, which was that Nick Sanders was organising an expedition to go all the way from the UK to the Black Sea using a narrowboat, the longest journey ever undertaken. And that seemed to be the ideal marketing platform for us. 10,000 miles of hopefully trouble-free operation.
He needed a new adventure to feed him, and suddenly, almost out of nowhere, because he did always love canal boats, he got a piece of paper and he started designing the trip and the Black Sea Odyssey trip, and how he was going to fund it, and that he would need 100 grand, and lo and behold, because of who he is, within a very short time he'd raised the money and he was sailing off into the sunset.
It didn't feel dangerous crossing the channel, because I think the journey from St Catherine's Dock to Ramsgate, going into Ramsgate at 10 o'clock at night with big waves, that was scary. We were almost like, where do we go? How do we find it? That's when we first encountered big waves.
What we saw from the canoe, 2 narrowboats which were actually far more stable than I'd imagine, just gently cruising across the channel between very large ships and other boats. Very interesting when it became misty, and obviously vision was a bit of an issue. It was very serene in actual fact, going across.
You've got 2 narrowboats, standard size really for this country. You fit in your locks well over here.
We were just on normal narrowboats which are designed for narrow canals and English canal waterways.
I think because of Nick's real understanding of the inland waterways and the boats and that, I think it was his vision to take two boats which really weren't designed to be going across the channel or up those large rivers and take them out of their sort of comfort zone.
The second you get into the continent, you're undersized.
And suddenly we were on these huge waterways that were, the scale of which was probably not what these boats were designed for.
You get into France, the locks are big. Then you get into Germany and on the Rhine and the Main, and the locks are huge.
I don't think we really realised how big the journey was when we set out on the expedition, because when I joined the boat in Paris, we were sailing along nice French canals, and then after we joined the Danube, things started to get bigger and greater than we realised, I think.
And I think in some ways it's been great because he's had great rewards and broken world record and so on. But I also think that he's also lost certain things, such as spending so much time on his own and perhaps not being able to spend the time with people that perhaps he felt, you know, maybe he should have spent time with more.
In fact, on the Danube there was a lock, took us 10 minutes to sail down from the back because it was so big. We could have done a U-turn in it. It was huge, and it had an aircraft tower controlling it to see the ships coming in. The scale was colossal, bigger than anything you would imagine.
And we suddenly realised we were on a much bigger expedition than we probably had signed up for in the first place. But the whole dimension of the river, I mean, for instance, at Capsicova the river was over a mile wide. I mean, I've been used to canals in England which are, what, 50 metres wide, and here we were on waterways that were, you couldn't see the other side of. I mean, the scale of the waterways that we were travelling was huge.
Started off as a rough day, then we struggled to pull the anchor up.
It was very dangerous, no question about it.
And then we set off down what is a 17-kilometre long dam with the prevailing wind, with the boat pushing the water down the channel, which was concrete sided. So basically building a big dam that straightened the river, there was no bends, which creates a bottleneck of water.
I remember the fact that when we were approaching the lock at Capsicova and we were trying to contact the lock keeper to open the lock gate so we could get in, and there was some communication problem, so we had to pull into the side before entering the lock, and I think that's probably when the things started to go slightly wrong with the sinking.
As we got to the end, to the dam, the waves were rebounding off the walls. They were peaking at 2 metres.
We pulled into the bank and then things started to go seriously wrong.
And that was incredibly scary. That was almost terrifying, because I think it was February. Water temperature was probably 3-4 degrees.
It was dramatic, to say the least.
The butty went down at the back, James jumped off. We managed to cut the ropes at the front to release the butty, and it sunk.
If it wasn't for the fact that Nick Logan was able to separate the two boats, I think both boats would have sunk. We were lucky to escape with just one boat sinking, but it was a very dangerous moment.
4 days later, the storm subsided and the divers craned up what was left of the boat. Her back had not broken and she was largely intact. Salvaging what we could from everything else, we set sail once again. Still far from our objective of reaching the Black Sea, all we had to do was cross Serbia, a country still at war with Croatia.
We've been warned by the Western European Union not to go through Serbia. And they'd said it should take you 10 days to go through, and it took us 20. And they thought we'd been killed, but they always said, we won't come in, we won't look at you, we won't do anything, we won't contact the press, nothing. When it came to Vukovar and we sailed down the left bank of the Danube, because you could see the bomb damage on the cranes and the docks and the high-rise flats and stuff. And it was very sort of emotional knowing that there's obviously been reported atrocities, stuff like that.
To paraphrase Lawrence Durrell, for us adventurers and artists, there waits the wonderful compromise through travel with everything which has defeated us in daily life. In this way, on a voyage, not to evade destiny, as the ordinary people try to do, but to fulfill it and always do what you've actually imagined you can. Mission accomplished. The crew returned home and, unable to motor upstream against the powerful flow of Europe's most ferocious river, the Danube, I hitched a lift with a Romanian river tug, where preparations were being made to lash me alongside. What I had already done would have to be done again.
When I first met Nick, I was living on a boat in Northampton, and it was fantastic to meet someone else who also loved living on boats. And when I fell pregnant with our first child, we kind of did that thing that parents do, thinking, oh, I'm going to have a baby now, so we've got to go move into a flat somewhere boring. But Nick and I kind of went through that motion, and then eventually we just thought, no, we like boats, we'll stay on the boat. So we had Will on the boat. I was really heavily pregnant when he came back from a big journey around the world, the fastest man journey. And in the end, I just got too big and heavy. And at Croppedy Lock, near Banbury, I just said, that's enough, Nick, I'm staying here, I'm having my baby here.
I don't remember my very first meeting with Nick specifically. I remember meeting this guy on a canal boat and just thinking, oh, he's an interesting guy. You get a few interesting people coming up the towpath from time to time.
So that's where we stayed, which was a fantastic start to life, family life together, because we met so many great people there, like Sam and Janie, our really good friends who lived right near the lock.
And then I met his wife. And I was completely taken aback because he was this pretty scruffy, rough looking guy, and he was attached to this totally gorgeous long-legged model. So I thought, wow, what's going on here? This is cool,
And we rented a fantastic old dairy in Croppedy Manor, which was just a short walk down the towpath. So I did a lot of toing and froing with pushchairs on towpaths at that stage. But it was all really lovely, and just one very good little baby, Will. It was all very easy. He'd sleep through the night, eat his porridge in the morning.
Pretty amazing. Nick doesn't do anything by half. He goes the whole hog when he does something. So he's pretty exciting to work with and be involved with any sort of project. Because I'm a sculptor, both he and Henny asked me if I would design and build them a wedding bed. So I designed and built them this rather impressive marriage bed. And then there's all sorts of crazy plans, which Nick's really good at. He sort of wanted to get everybody on board the boats up here by the lock and then sail everybody down to Croppedy and moor up and then walk up the road to the church and stuff and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think it would be pretty standard to say that Nick does things in a pretty complex but really energised way. And he's very good at towing people along, you know, so people get involved, which is great fun. And it turned out to be a pretty spectacular wedding.
Getting married to Henny was one of the highlights of my life. In a 6-month period during 1995, I'd secured 3 blue-chip companies to sponsor my fastest man ride. I was to become a father and had suddenly been given the opportunity to start again with my own brand new family. After the wedding, the honeymoon. The extraordinary life had become an ordinary one. Journeys that coursed in my soul and made me feel alive were replaced by another actually more important journey, one of raising a family. We returned to Cropredy to start a new project, leading riders across North America on the longest group expedition ever then attempted.
Top of the World Highway expedition with Nick Sanders. Yeah, that was an experience.
Well, Nick had done so many journeys on his own and, trying to earn a bit more money now. He was in a family situation.
Then Nick turned up on the scene down here and decided to organise some massive adventure across America to Alaska.
It was kind of natural for Nick really to sort of start getting other people to come with him on those journeys and earn a little bit of money from it. We planned that whilst we were in Spain, so it had a little light bulb moment over a plate of olives at some point and a glass of beer, I think. So that it just felt right, and even though Will was tiny, it did feel right to take him with us.
Took it for granted, I suppose, without asking too many questions, that Nick sort of knew what he was doing. And I signed up to do this trip because it was really exciting. 1 month, 12,000 miles or something, and right across America and all the way out through Canada, across into Alaska and back again. So it was going to be a pretty special trip.
He'd been a very easy baby and he was an easy toddler. He enjoyed being in the backup vehicle. There were a couple of girls who made a fuss of him all day long, including me. I was pregnant with Juno at the time, so it was quite a gruelling mission to kind of join in with it all.
I learnt a lot about Nick, I think, on that trip. My abiding memories are actually of how a trip can work and sometimes how a trip can't work.
Yeah, it was really nice that we did it as a family, and that was the first and last time we could travel together with the kids on Nick's journeys. To be quite frank, his journeys aren't very child-friendly.
But I do remember very strongly the whole sense of Nick Sanders running this wonderful expedition with his wife, very young wife, with a very young son running around. But it was pretty fraught with angst for quite a few people. I do remember having just the most fantastic time. It really was a brilliant trip for me. These journeys, when you go on a trip like one of Nick's tours, it creates a compression of riding experience. So it's not the sort of experience that most motorcyclists get on a day-to-day basis. Suddenly, first of all, you're in a foreign country, so you're probably riding on the wrong side of the road. The road surfaces are different, everything changes, and you're riding 300 or 400 miles a day, and sometimes even more. And for somebody like Nick, who does it week after week after week, year after year after year, and he's, I don't know how many millions of miles he's ridden, but he's ridden a lot, whereas most of us haven't, and so he's used to it, and the others are not. So this compression it can be quite scary, and I think it makes riders either ride right on the edge of their skill level, or it makes them ride very comfortably, like they slow down and they don't take any risks because they feel, a little bit less than comfortable, I suppose.
And the pressure sort of mounted gradually, and by the time we got to having Juno, our second son, and Will had fallen in the canal once in a duffel coat, which was quite a scary thing. By the time Juno was about 2 or 3 months old, I was pretty keen to move off the boats because of the headache of, preventing children from drowning, to be quite frank, and also the limitations of space.
For a person who couldn't live on a boat by himself, the concept of living on a boat with a wife and 2 small children would fill me with absolute horror.
So the sort of romantic dream of freedom dwindled slightly away, and freedom became a place where we all had a bit of space to stretch our wings.
So, second child in the bag, we moved into a small farm in Wales. The transition into normality and ordinariness had begun along with the birth of my third child, Tatiana.
Yeah, I don't know, really. I've got to think about it.
With 3 children, a wife and a mortgage, I had in 4 short years also motorcycled around the world 4 times. And there was something apocryphal about that. But at last, I had a family of my own to love and to learn how to be a good dad. But I hadn't completely forgotten my need to have a mission. To put it mildly, feeding kids porridge was okay, but come on, biking around the world, it burns a hole in your head.
Once we'd moved off the boats into the house in Wales, Nick was sort of deeply unhappy really and restless. He couldn't really handle staying within 4 walls. It didn't really suit him. It actually did his head in completely. It took about a month for him to concoct a really good reason to go off on another journey. To be fair to him, it was really sweet that he wanted to take Will and Jay and I with him. The sidecar was quite noisy for Will and Jay.
At that moment in time, combining family life and adventuring, I thought I had it all. It made me feel like any number of Victorian explorers who crossed Africa with their long-suffering wives. And here I was venturing to southern Spain in a new project, 4 go to Europe. And yet within a mile of leaving home, a small boy needed his mum's milk. The objective of this journey was to record the adventures of a family on the road. If Millie was a showgirl, then Henny was the model who turned into a mum. She had enjoyed a very successful career as a model in Paris and Tokyo, but gave it up to look after my 3 children. Somewhere up the road, I discovered a fantastic opportunity for a short film shoot. It wasn't obvious to me then, but looking back, pinch points of discord had begun to form. Children like routine, and I wondered if my self-centred approach to our family life was stretching us all a bit thin. It's said an historian is a prophet looking backwards. How you see something is how it is. But small incidents were forming which I didn't know then, but they would make this new dream forever irredeemable.
Yeah, it was okay. It was the hardest bit was actually stopping to do the filming, because no sooner would the boys be asleep in the sidecar or with a lolly in their mouths and finally happy, when Nick would need to stop at the side of the road and film, and that would take half an hour, and it was really difficult.
Okay, action! Action!
But it was also really amazing to go and travel together, and it was on that journey where it was sort of quite a halting journey with lots of breaks in between. But once we got down to southern Spain, to Andalusia, we met some really amazing people in the mountains there, and that became quite a big story for us as a family, as we ended up buying a very small ruin there, and that was really great. That was one of the really nice outcomes of the journey. And we've got some fantastic film footage still, and yeah, it was really good in some ways. It was very gruelling. It was very, very gruelling as a mum.
Do you like being kind of on the road, travelling?
No.
No.
Of all the words of mice and men, the trickiest are, it might have been. But then it's odd, isn't it? You really might have been the right man for her, in a sort of way. But then, as you know, it really is a law of love that the so-called right person always comes too soon or too late. Around the World Again, twice in the same year, and I was contracted to make the Global Rider TV series and also lead 22 riders on a 32,000-mile journey.
Henny, how are you?
Hi, Nikki. Where are you?
I really miss you, yeah. It's been ages, hasn't it?
Well, when are you coming back?
I'll be coming home soon, okay?
Have you forgotten that we got married 3 weeks ago, Nikki? Is this meant to be our honeymoon? You promised me the Seychelles.
I'll be coming home soon, okay?
And it was you who got me pregnant and gave me a baby, you know.
Yeah.
And he's here now, and I'm stuck with him. Where are you?
At one stage there, we were the only barnstormers in the world.
Captain Boggles and I have been barnstorming around Australia until the last 12 months or so. And to our knowledge, we were the only full-time barnstormers doing this in the world.
We were travelling full-time all over Australia with a caravan, truck and the 2 Tigers.
We loved it, and we were out to preach the gospel of tiger mothing to Australia, so to speak.
2 pilots, and we just kept going. We had no fixed address.
Asking the question that seeks to sort of unravel Nick Sanders is very difficult. And I've known Nick now for 20 years and I've been on some bike rides with him and we're good mates. I don't believe I can unravel Nick, nobody can.
Nick and I divorced in 2006, and I'm sure as most divorces aren't very easy, and it's not great for the kids either, and it was a really unsettled period. Probably till about 2008, to be honest, when Nick met Caroline. To be frank, he was a pain in the arse for 2 years.
Nick does have this wonderful energy and he has this wonderful drive and he's got crazy ideas.
But as soon as he met Caroline, he sort of calmed down and became a happier person again.
Not many people put their ideas into practice with such energy as Nick. What it is that singularly drives him, I'm not sure.
And since then we've worked together pretty well. It's not always easy. Nick's life's not really fully adapted to life, especially it wasn't adapted to life with young children, so probably most of the grey hairs on my head are from moments where the kids were with him in highly or very or extremely unsuitable situations which weren't always putting them first. But he got away with it, they got away with it, they seem to be unscathed in most respects.
People often think about Nick or describe him as being crazy. He's not crazy in the slightest. He's just full of energy.
We do have a laugh together and we do have a banter.
He comes from quite a difficult family background. So Nick had a father who didn't know whether Nick had just returned from the source of the Nile or had just come back from the corner shop and didn't, I don't think, particularly care too much. And his mother, I think, was a bit of an alcoholic, I believe.
There are still undercurrents of whatever, anger, stroke, not understanding, incomprehension on Nick's part, how I could possibly have left him. But I think anyone who knows him, who's ever read a single one of his books or watched a single one of his films, or indeed as a best friend, would feel like it's pretty clear why a woman with 3 small children would need to leave Nick.
He's quite a singular guy in that respect, but I think Nick is searching for often a deep understanding of life, and I think he does it by putting himself into uncomfortable positions. He puts himself in a place where most people don't want to go. I think that says a lot about Nick as a guy, and I think it's one of the main reasons I really like him, because he's always on the edge.
We all care for him a lot, but he, you know, yes, he's a good ex-husband in many ways.
That'll do, Mum.
He asked for it.
You did. You're right.
Got myself a new bike, enough sponsors to pay for the journey. It was only 3 weeks anyway, and no doubt there would be the ubiquitous book and film to make a few bob when I got back. Hey, it wasn't all bad.
Where exactly am I now?
Naldur. This is Naldur Fort.
Yes.
And this is a rest house here.
That's a rest house.
Yeah, guest house.
And how far is it to Hyderabad?
Hyderabad, I think 250 to 300.
300.
Near about 300 kilometers. We'll reach about in 4 hours.
4 hours from here.
If you go on this bike, we'll reach in 4 hours. Just say goodbye, okay?
The heaviest impact of your work is in your guts. Obsession does not reason. It manhandles you, and behind that terrible sense of not wanting to be ordinary, the pain of separation could not be described. It was beyond words. It's like a recurring dream that said you were never coming back. I was now getting close to Dunlop and Finnegan, in their own world of black and white. You didn't see the colour because it was getting close to not being there.
Just hold that and then film me, okay? Film? Yep. What's the temperature today?
Now it is maybe around 43. No, not 43. Around 40, 40 to 41.
Yeah.
41.
And why is that? Is that because the monsoon's coming?
Monsoon is due by next week.
You only need one mistake and you're off. And in these conditions, it's very, very easy to do. you suddenly get that idea, you're gritting your teeth, and you're just going to go for it. I think this is the turning point of the record for me. This is where I'm either going to win it or I'm going to lose it.
Adventure motorcycling showed us that there was another option out there that wasn't quite as fast but was equally as challenging.
And leading people onto trips like the Timbuktu trip, where they would ask his advice and say, which bike should I be riding?
People like Nick and all the other adventure riders have effectively shown us that there is still a challenge out there, a challenge that isn't at 100 miles an hour, but certainly something that you can use a different style of motorcycle and still have fun.
And of course, the first Timbuktu he did with XT660, he rode Super Tenere, he's ridden R1. It was the variety of bikes. There was a value in that, proving not just one bike was good, but that many more in the range were good too.
Ultimately, it's not just good enough to be the best. You have to have a resonance with the people that are looking into that window. So if you want to take the top racers, they can be fast, but if they don't have that connection to the audience, they're not going to be, it's not sustainable. You don't have any buy-in. And I think that all the way down through motorcycling, you've only got to look at the John McGuinnesses, the Shaky Burns, the Josh Brookses, the Kianaris. All those people all the way through the ages have had a massive fan base, and that fan base isn't just about the skill that they have, it's about the relationship that they've generated with the audience. And I think it's that relationship building process that gives us sustainability.
And the publicity that he was generating while he was doing it. And that far outweighed the cost of the sponsorship that we were giving to him. It was win-win for Yamaha and for him.
And that interest in the motorcycle by the audience has then kick-started the development of those bikes throughout the different manufacturers. So I think it's been very important indeed.
And the reason for that was not just because he proved that the bike was very, very good by taking it into places it should never have gone. But also the value came from the Nick Sanders brand, because afterwards the stories, the publicity, and of course Nick himself in personal appearances worked absolute magic.
Tierra del Fuego, yet again on the road. My favourite cafe at the end of the world, where here I can hide, listening to the tick-tock of time filtering away. Incalculably a small moments of freedom, the only thing that makes me feel alive.
He wanted the sense of adventure portrayed on screen that he felt as he went on his adventures, driving thousands and thousands of miles without anyone. What he wants the viewer to see is that, and experience what he has experienced.
The bike's got stuck, and I don't know, God, I can't believe it. Hang on, look.
Nick is incredibly unique in terms of the way that he films his adventures. Just to give an example, for instance, if we were to go out with a full camera crew, you'd have...
And this is what I have to do to make the film.
An operator, a focus puller, a camera assistant, a camera trainee, a clapper loader, a producer, a DOP.
The altitude's about just approaching 4,000 metres, which is about, 13 or maybe 14,000 feet.
Perhaps one or two cameras to cover all the shots.
And of course, I'm typically unprepared, I've no food or water.
And Nick does it all on his own.
And I'm on this road, an hour from Marsabit, and nothing has passed me in 2 days. I've been completely on my own.
Half the time I'm surprised he actually comes back with any footage at all, because the time it takes to set up a shot, just to go past it and then go and pick up the camera again, is absolutely obscene. especially when you're actually doing a record at the time.
Bike released from customs at Anchorage at 12:30. The service took an hour, left there at 1:30. 500 miles done by 10:30. That's 9 hours. We're on schedule.
In fact, you know, I'm sure he could have shaved many days off of his world record if he hadn't been filming it himself.
And it's 10 days to New York, and I've got to get through Bolivia and into Chile, Ecuador, Peru, and then I've got to get the flight from Bogota to Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, across Mexico, and then across the States. Yeah.
Nick will also not only just film his journeys and also make the effort to stop and get these amazing cutaways. And he will sit and he'll take the time to get these beautiful shots that he knows where he's going to put them in his sequence. I've edited with Nick for 8 or 9 years, but Nick has always known what he's wanted from his edits. He'll say, I'll be going, oh, we're in Bolivia, I need some cover for you with some flamingos. Well, I've just got this shot, it's just over there. I did it there. I couldn't breathe at the time, I was so high up. There you go. And that's how Nick works. He's already shot for edit. He knows what he wants, and he knows he has to fill a certain amount of time.
The first time I met Nick Sanders was in a porter cabin with his hands in his head, just thinking, what am I going to do? We had a load of bikes to go to Lisbon and then onwards to Morocco, and I got, well, not talked into, I go in wholeheartedly. I thought this was a great idea and a great concept. So we loaded the bikes up, took them to Lisbon, and before you know it, I was on my way to Timbuktu, which was the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Jim transported the riders' bikes from Olrewas to Lisbon, from where we would ride the 4,000 odd miles across Morocco, Mauritania and Mali to the fabled city of Timbuktu. And once we'd assembled alongside that year's Dakar event, we set off. None of these people had done anything like this before.
You see this little area here that says minimum and maximum? There's a piece at the bottom that says, for God's sake, please put some in me, and that's where it was.
I don't know, can you get the camera any closer? Of course it'll get you home, it depends where you live.
Everything on from that, I've travelled the world and been given great opportunities and met hundreds of very talented people, very abstract people, and people that are like-minded, and people that are frail and scared of going on an adventure. It's been good, it's been a good experience from start to finish. The exciting bit for me is the mechanical breakdowns. I love it. When something goes bang or snaps or falls off, then I've got something to do. Timbuktu and Africa, it was such a wonderful place, especially in the evening, the sounds, the smells, the people. It was just a gorgeous country. Travelling to Timbuktu was very difficult. It was an adventure. There was no agenda, no time frame, no nothing. The objective was to get to Timbuktu. And people did start to fold halfway into the trip, but when people stuck at it and realised what they were doing, they realised they were achieving something that not everybody can do.
Yesterday was a brilliant ride. I really enjoyed that. It's one of those rides that will stick in my mind for years. There was just the two of us. It was me and Andy. I mean, can you imagine it? You know, scenery like this. Two of us on our bikes. It turned out nice as well. We stopped for lunch under a tree. We just kept motoring. I think it was almost 360 miles. It was one of those you'll remember. Brilliant. Well, it's a freedom, isn't it? You know, we've had reasonable roads with not a lot of traffic on.
And we're still on the edge of the southern edge of the Sahara Desert, and it's just so quiet and so desolate. Apart from shepherds and camel herders and so on, and wandering nomads and Tuaregs, you know, there really are very few people here. It's a vastly underpopulated area.
You are doing something that I think the majority of these people have looked to do at some point in their life. I mean, we haven't known it's going to be Timbuktu or something like that.
It's an odd thing when you create a concept like you know, London to Timbuktu, and you wonder why you do it. What are the reasons for it?
You've got to have an objective when you set out on a journey, and that objective clearly this time was Timbuktu.
But you create a goal, and when you create a goal, you create a challenge, and there are people who want challenges, need them, and in actual fact, when they complete that challenge, and it's something which is something they just may never repeat in the whole of their life. It's a life-changing, life-reaffirming experience. It's a privilege to be part of that.
When it was the last day of getting to Timbuktu, it's on an unmade road. We're getting battered to death. You had to cruise along at 50, and out of the desert, these Tuareg guys walked straight out from nowhere. And they were just stunning. They were okay for me to point a camera at them. I was excited because, you know, this is a real situation. It's not a man-made, it's not a photographer dressing someone to look like a Tuareg. This is a Tuareg. This is the guy, this is how he lives. It's perhaps the first time they actually saw a picture of themselves. I'm sure that Tuareg don't walk around with giant mirrors, so they're not really wired that way.
Look at that one.
Let's do another one. Come on. You ready? Everybody to me. So to actually meet people and get the chance to take pictures of them, you know, you can't beat that as a photographer. That's a bit of gold, isn't it? Great stuff.
Leading groups on expeditions was one way I managed to earn some money, and there were plenty of discussions on how to proceed for the best.
Not full power, but put power on, and it'll lift. Sit back. The back wheel starts driving. The front wheel can actually go straight through the sand like a boat.
Really?
Honest, yeah.
Well, there's obviously a knack to it that I haven't acquired yet.
It's the courage of...
Why do I keep falling off?
What do you want to do? It's like skiing. You've got to lean down the mountain, haven't you? The same thing.
But what was just really beautiful as we arrived there at the right moment in time. Light's getting really saucy, so John, if you come straight down this side here, and Andy, if you just do that little flick on and get the back end up so I can see a bit into the bike, and just open it up at that point so we get a little bit of sex factor to it. That's what you can't necessarily always do on a road trip, is set yourself that moment. You can't say, I'll wait all day for the sunlight to do that.
As soon as you get down there, turn around and come back.
We were blessed with arriving at the perfect moment, and what it needed was a cover for the book, and I could see that was a possibility. Beautiful, ochre, copper-coloured road, dusty, and two bikers who were very capable, riding really nice bikes. Fantastic background. It was a no-brainer not to go for it. And to me, as a photographer, you know, to try and get a little bit more danger into it, it was like stand in the middle of the road and get two guys ride at me and see how close they can get, basically. That was the one.
So is that what they call the money shot?
Yeah, that's the money shot. And then funny thing is that when you actually look at the pictures afterwards and you're editing, you recognise that the shot that works doesn't have the bikes in it, it just has the dust. I think what was really something about that is because Timbuktu at the time was politically, and since gone even worse, very hard to get to. And I think there was question whether or not we were going to make it to Timbuktu. And there was such a wonderful mixed bag of people that were riding with us, you know, seems like millionaires, guys who'd spent years saving up to do it. People didn't know they were going to make it there. So making it, first of all, from a personal point of view, to a place which is kind of Is it real? Is the same question most people throw at you. I didn't realise it was actually real. So when you actually got there was this strange kind of euphoria that took over everybody, because it was bloody dangerous to be heading in that direction. So the thing, that photograph in a weird way, because it's proof that we made it there. It's not like getting on a coach trip, you know, where you just sit on a coach and you get to places. You've got to work hard to get to that place, otherwise you're not going to get to that place. And we were lucky to find a window where we could get in and get out. I think that picture sums it up. It's a very happy, smiley bunch of guys who managed to do what they said they were going to do. He's always had this wonderful ability to sort of see the world in a way that nobody else I've ever met has or can. He's got such a weird, wonderful, eclectic mix and a memory for places that is second to none. It's unbelievable.
I think it's day 22. I'm not quite sure now. Completely lost track of where I'm going or what time I'm doing what I'm doing.
It's a very strange ride being along with Nick. It's, you know, you can't quite put your finger on it, but it has this lovely, everything will be cool, even though it could be quite dangerous what you're up to, you know, which is a heady mix. It's a wonderful mix, and you can't really, you know, you have to do it, you have to keep going at it. It's strange.
So we've just crossed over the border into Mali and we're on the way to Bamako. And yeah, this is truly the face of Africa. The Dakar organisation has just gone through. We won't see them again now. And so we're on our way now to Bamako with 2 more days to get to Timbuktu after tomorrow. So it's all looking good. The project's on schedule, bang on schedule actually. I thought we'd get there on the 19th of January and we are.
He's been true to himself. As long as I've known him, he's been as mad as a box of frogs.
Predictably, another bike bites the dust today. Now we've got 5 or 6 days to go, so that's 1 bike a day. That's 5 bikes. Now, 5 bikes on the truck, let me think now. That'll be 2/3 of the whole contingent of this journey from London to Timbuktu and back. Well, I suppose we could put a bike on the side of the truck, and a bike on the other side of the truck, and another one on the roof. We could put one on the bonnet, I suppose. We could even put another one on top of the XT, which is on top of the cab roof. Yeah, all things are possible. So there we are. God, I've never come across this before. Can't these people ride their bikes?
And may he continue to be so, because I think it brings people to the planet like that. You know, like crazy climbers who do crazy places. It's like the very few of them, and you have to listen to people like that. You have to watch them because they give you a view of the world which a normal person can't possibly give you.
So on the one hand, you've got Valentino Rossi doing well at that time, 2005 on MotoGP. And you've got Nick doing what he was doing, riding the R1 across the Nubian desert. Which one's of greater value to the brand is a difficult question. Without a doubt, Valentino Rossi will build fans that will see what he's racing and say, yeah, okay, maybe I'll have a Yamaha next time around. To me, looking at it at that time, and this may come as a surprise, but to me, Nick Sanders was more valuable to me in the UK, in my mind, than Valentino Rossi racing MotoGP.
We just are ready for whatever Nick wants to suggest next. It's been a fantastic adventure and a journey that looks likely to continue for many years to come.